All right, we are live. Welcome back, everyone, to the Become Alpha podcast. I'm the host, Sam Hill, and we have on today Kyle Compton. He's a sales specialist at Lowe's Home Improvement and a good friend of mine for about, I'd say, 10 years, or about that much. And also want to make an honorable mention to the Square Root, which is an awesome kava bar in Austin. And what kava is it's basically ceremonial and also a social drink that is from the Polynesian islands. And there, it's kind of like they have kava bars, and we have alcohol bars, or we have pubs and things like that. So they brew kava in their country, and it's kind of like their social drink of choice. And there's kind of a big kind of kava movement happening here, where more and more people are going to these kava bars instead of going to, let's say, a pub or I guess a bar like down on 6th Street or something. But basically, it's just a healthier alternative to alcohol. And it feels a lot better than alcohol once it's active and once you actually feel it. But yeah, that's just an awesome honorable mention. And we have our kava lemonade. They're called kava chillers, and they're pretty awesome. The taste is okay, but it kind of tastes, Kyle was saying, it kind of tastes like a little peppery. But yeah, they're pretty darn good, and they make you feel amazing. So yeah, that's the main point about it, because I know a lot of people are just, I mean, you kind of feel like crap after you drink alcohol a little bit. I mean, unless you have like a beer or two, but I mean, you just don't feel that great. And kava is an amazing alternative, especially for like stress release and all of that stuff. But anyways, I guess tell us a little bit about yourself, Kyle, just in general. Maybe some just interests you have, because I think we all have a unique message and kind of a unique experience as human beings. So why don't you just give us a little introduction about yourself? Maybe say a few things.
Well, like you said, I'm flooring specialist over at Lowe's. I work right down the street from where I live. I'm huge into comic books. Yeah, big comic book, big Marvel fan. Love all the Marvel movies. I tend to deal with a lot of people at work that are not always happy with me. So I wound up taking a lot of crap and have had to learn to deal with upset people on a regular basis. So that's kind of like a lot of what I wanted to talk about today. But yeah, pretty nerdy guy. Like a lot of video games, like you.
Yeah, I mean, comic books are awesome too. I've enjoyed my fair share of comic books, especially graphic novels like 300. That was one of my favorites. Or The Watchmen. I saw the Watchmen movie before I read the graphic novel, but comic books are awesome. I've always loved them, and I used to read comic books like they're not really comic books, but like The Far Side, things like that. Yeah. They're less like Marvel, but they're still comic books. They're awesome. I love them. But and you said you kind of wanted to talk about the service industry stuff today. I've been in the service industry for probably around 4 years, and before that, I was in landscaping. So I can definitely relate to when people aren't satisfied with what you're giving them, and when people aren't just satisfied in general. It could mean that there's some things that aren't happening for them today or that day. But I don't know, maybe kind of go into that, maybe give us an example of like a specific time where someone just wasn't satisfied with what you were doing.
Well, somebody just, okay. Just the other day, one of my other guys, it wasn't even me that was involved in it, but they took an order for a customer, and the customer asked for this one specific thing, and we ordered it for them, and it came in, and they said, "Oh, this is the wrong stuff. You guys ordered the wrong stuff." Like, and they were super upset from there. They got really demanding, wanted free delivery, and we can't really argue back with them and say, "Well, we ordered what you asked us to order," because, of course, it's our word against theirs, and the customer's always right. So that kind of thing I deal with on a regular basis. Yeah, and people always want us to be responsible for the installers that they hire. We had somebody that ordered flooring from us that hired an installer that did not follow the directions at all. They didn't follow the installation guidelines. They didn't use the right stuff. And so they blamed us for not selling the right stuff and wanted us to order all the correct stuff, the correct glue, and pay their installers for the time that they spent doing the installation incorrectly.
Oh my God, dude. Well, that's like, I feel like that's a perfect example of when someone, and I run into this a lot, when, I don't know if it's taking advantage, but it's like, it is taking advantage. It's like, hey, so you're in a position to basically, because the customer is always right, like you said, it's like people are in this position of power where you want to serve them in the best way that you can, but they're in the power position because you want to please the customer. And so they, being however that is, maybe that's just programmed into them. Maybe they just learned it from someone else, but then them taking advantage of that and being like, you know what, I'm gonna get a little extra now that I know that I have you on that. Essentially, I have you on that chain. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna yank it a little more and get, shake some more stuff out of them. And that's ridiculous. Like, why? Even if the wrong stuff was ordered, like, why would you ask for that much more? Like that. I mean, that's you're not only like inconveniencing, like you're inconveniencing essentially everyone else. And a lot of the time, it's not the fault of the person who did the order. There's a good bit of the time where it's like, where I work, sometimes whenever people get it wrong, they just flat out get it wrong and they order it wrong. And it's our fault. It's the service person's fault. But a lot of times it's definitely the customer's fault or definitely someone else's fault. And they don't, a lot of times it's not them taking responsibility. And that might be because they're a little busy and they're like, you know what? I think I did take that order right. Like they probably don't remember, but they're just going to stick up for themselves so they can get their order and more, I guess. But that's happened to me where it's like one thing's wrong and they're like, they want their whole entire bill free. And it's like, I don't know if it works that way, buddy, but I mean, we just have to. It's like, it's always our fault. It's never the customer's fault, which is interesting. Because in, like, let's say, I don't know, I've been kind of exposed to different cultures, and in a lot of like traditional cultures, like they're very harsh, and in a lot of institutions like that are like that, they don't have much sympathy for people. So they're like, oh well, you ordered it wrong, like you're shit out of luck. But some people or some institutions, it's like they have that thing where it's like customers are always right. It's like, well, sometimes they're not. And maybe it's a good thing that customers are always right just to make it easier, just so you don't have like a scene where you're like, actually, no, I'm not going to give you that. And then they freak out about it. And I don't know, maybe something worse happens because, and you never know. Some people just might be going through a crappy day, but sometimes it's out of hand, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, that happens to me a lot where people kind of realize that you're in that, that they're in that power position. And so it's almost like they don't have to treat you like a human being like they normally would. Like, because the shit that people do in the service environment, they would never do to a stranger. They would never do to anyone they didn't know.
I've got a perfect example of this, actually. And this is pretty mild for the kind of things I run into at my job. But one day I had to pull up by our contractor area. I was taking a delivery out in my own truck, my personal truck, but I was still wearing my vest. So I pulled up there, hopped out of my car, went to get the forklift to load the pallet into my truck. And there was this guy there in like a PT Cruiser or something. And he was like tying like 8-foot boards into his PT Cruiser. And he was down there and he said something to me like, and I knew it was just to try to like, well, anyway, what he said to me was, I left my truck running. He's like, excuse me, can you turn your truck off? Your exhaust is spraying me in the face. And I was like, really? He was going to be gone in about 30 seconds. And I knew he just had some kind of an attitude about me leaving my truck running, probably because his own personal agenda or whatever. But had I not been wearing that vest, I guarantee you he would not have said anything to me. Like if a contractor pulled up and it's a bunch of like rugged tile guys pulling up there to get loaded up or something, he wouldn't have had the audacity to say something like that to them. But he knew because I was wearing that vest. He's like, oh, this guy can't say anything back to me. It's kind of like how over the phone people will be a lot more rude to you than when they see you in person, or in traffic. Like if you're driving through traffic and somebody's driving like a jerk and they like flick you off or something, if you were to stop and get out of the car, a lot of people would not have the same attitude.
They'd probably drive off or like run away. Because I mean, there's such a disconnect in when, like what you're talking about. If you didn't have that vest on, they wouldn't have said what they would have said. And it's like that's directly taking advantage of something that someone doesn't have control over. It's like when you work for a company, you follow a certain rules or you don't get to work there. And it's taking advantage of that vulnerability where they know you can't act out of line. So they're like, I can do whatever the fuck I want to this guy. Like, man, I don't even care. It's like I can say whatever I want, and it makes them feel better because they don't have the courage to ever do that to real people. So they do it to you because they don't feel powerful in their own life, in their own minds. They wouldn't have felt powerful or have enough courage if you were just a guy with a truck, like loading up stuff. They wouldn't have the courage because there's no strings attached there. They don't know you. Like they don't know who you work for. They don't know what you're representing. So then it would actually have to take them having courage and them knowing that person doesn't know them at all and honestly doesn't give a shit about them. So why would he turn off his car? He's like, why don't you move out of the way? That's what I would say. I'd be like, and like move out of the way. Like, and you can't say that when you work for someone because you'll get fired. Yep. Or they'll, reprimand you in some way. Like, hey, you can't treat customers like that. Like that's kind of rude. And a lot of people are soft. That's a big one. I mean, a lot of people are soft that way. They don't really have those kind of real human interactions where they actually have to stand up to someone. Let's say if it really was an inconvenience for them and it really was like a situation where they couldn't get out of the way of his truck and the exhaust was like blowing in their face, and that's pretty dangerous, then that would be a different story, but I don't know if it was, but I don't think it was. Like, it probably wasn't. There's a lot of room at Lowe's just everywhere. It's like you could move over 5 feet and it wouldn't be a problem. But whenever you have a situation like that, then people would be understanding, like, hey, your exhaust is blowing right in my face. Do you think you could turn off your car or something? And people usually are, if it's a problem like that, people aren't. But people recognize when you're just being soft, when you're just being, you could say whatever you want. I mean, you could say, they're being a little bitch or something, but like, they're just being soft. They don't have the courage to tell normal people that because they don't even feel like it's that big of a deal. They just want to feel powerful. So it's not even a big enough deal for them to stand up to someone else, but they'll definitely stand up to you because it's like, you're there to, be soft for them. Basically, you're there to be soft and make sure you're nice and, make sure everything's okay. And there's definitely value in that, but sometimes people see that and they're little vampires. They just fucking take advantage. They're like, "Oh, I see this little weak spot. I'm gonna go in and poke him," or and that bothers me a lot when people do that. I mean, it bothers me a lot when people take advantage of service people. Like even if orders are wrong, like we're fucking human beings. Like give us a fucking break. Like even if we do something wrong, it's like, yeah, like this is inconvenient, but I make mistakes too. Like I make mistakes a lot, and sometimes, like if I order something and it is wrong, it is an inconvenience, and I'll get a little ticked off about it, like, oh, that could have not happened. But there's no point in there's no point in causing more inconvenience and then causing more negativity for everyone else. It's like,
what was that? My thoughts about it. You know that scene? Well, the expression "shit happens."
Yeah.
It's like that scene in Forrest Gump when that guy's trying to make the bumper sticker and Forrest is running and he runs through a pile of shit and he's just like, it happens. Sometimes. It's like if Forrest Gump had ran through that pile of shit and he's like, whoa, you just stepped in a big pile of shit. And he goes, what the fuck? Somebody's going to pay for this.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, that's a perfect example too. It's like, who put this shit here? Like looking around to find someone who did this. And it's like, man, you step in some shit sometimes. Like,
I might get a new pair of shoes out of this.
Just like go to the store. These shoes got shit on them. Y'all need to pay for it.
But yeah, no, and that guy that I last talked about, had he not said that with an attitude and making a big deal out of nothing, I'd have been like, all right, I get it. It's actually an inconvenience, but I don't mind helping you out.
Like, hey, could you turn that off? Like, it's kind of getting in my face. I'm just waiting here. If it had been like polite and nice and being like, oh, you're another human being, I'm talking to you, like I'm understanding your situation, like with that kind of output, it's different than just being like, hey, you guys, fucking, your stuff is in my face. Turn your car off. Why is it even on?
And I'm not saying that when things go wrong in that type of environment that it's not always that it's not an inconvenience for customers, because I know it is. I know people are inconvenienced when stuff like that happens, but the way you handle it makes all the difference in the world. Like you understand things go wrong, and you don't just start raising hell and trying to get everything out of everybody. You say, all right, this went wrong. This is what's going on. How do we move forward from here?
Yeah.
What can we do? Because like if somebody didn't have a kitchen sink because something came in and it was damaged and it caused a problem on their install, I understand and I want to help you. But it's something's out of my control, and I want to do my best to help you. But coming in here and causing more of a problem for me is not helping either of us.
Yeah, and it's not helping anyone.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll help anybody with anything if they're inconvenienced. I'll go the extra mile, but you almost don't even want to when they come in with attitude like that. Like,
I mean, it's almost like you instinctively notice that there is some kind of imbalance. Like it's almost like this instinctual feeling you get. Like it just feels nasty. Like you don't really know what to say about it. It's just when it happens, it doesn't feel good. You're like this could have been better. Like this interaction could have been a lot better between us. Like what is making you? I mean, it's kind of like what is, you know, and even if there was a bad reaction, at least explain it. At least be like, God, man, I'm sorry, I'm having a shitty fucking day. Like, and then you could be like, oh, like, you know, you could understand it. But there's whenever you got to give time. Like, if you're, because I've gotten really pissed off at people before. But if you're getting really pissed off, you better have a context for it. Like, you better be able to inform people, like, hey guys, this is the worst day of my life. Or like, hey guys, this is, you know, I'm just not feeling great today. And this is just on top of this. It's like, I'm about to have a breakdown. Like, and then at least you warn them or give context to it or explain it afterwards. Like, hey guys, I'm like, sorry if I'm, you know, being a dick, but I'm just having a shitty day. And then everyone feels better. They're like, oh, great. So you're not just being a dick, you know, for no reason. And that's so important. Like, just give a context to it. You don't even have to, you don't even have to explain it. Like, you don't have to write an article about it, like why I was, you know, you don't have to go write a Yelp review and explain why you were pissed off at the people who worked there. It's like, just be like, hey, I'm having a shitty day, and it's making it worse. Like, some people just want to take advantage because they feel powerless in their lives. But some people are genuinely just having a shitty day, and it just adds on to it. And they're like, oh, fuck. You know, oh, I hate this. Like, why is this happening right now? Like, couldn't you all have done something? Like, and there's probably, yeah, I'm feeling a lot more from this drink than I did the 4 kava drinks at the Square Root.
Yeah.
Do you feel it yet?
I feel it. I feel it.
Yeah, it's like this feeling like on your eyes a little bit, almost like a heaviness. But
yeah, I've got it like all throughout my body. It feels like.
Yeah, it's great. Imagine if you drank the whole thing. And this is just starting.
Remember what she told us to. It kind of has like a reverse tolerance. So like the more of it that you drink normally, the more it starts to affect you. Well,
yeah.
That should be with anything, really. But like the more frequently you drink it, I guess, the easier it is to start to take effect.
Yeah, which is interesting because that's the opposite of all the other drugs that exist. You have a tolerance to it. And it's even with alcohol, it's a tolerance. But the more you drink of kava, the less you have to drink of it. So that makes it even safer than coffee. It makes it safer because, let's say if I go have 4 kava drinks one day, and then the next day, it'll only take, or then, you know, however, I don't know how long the tolerance cycle is, but, you know, the next part of the cycle is like 3 drinks and then 2 drinks. And then you have 1 drink and it's like having those 4 drinks. It's like, wow, like that's amazing. Not only that is like, you have to drink less now. And for everything else, it's, you have to keep going more and more and more, which kind of feeds into, let's say, alcoholism or like coffeeism, you could call it, where people are just helplessly dependent on coffee. And I've had some problems with coffee too. Like I have like a 1 cup a day rule, but sometimes I'll be like, man, I need a little more spike, and I'll just like hit back another coffee, and then I'll just feel jittery all day. Like I'm just like, I like can't calm down, and like I mean, it's a problem. But with this, it's like, it's almost like you can't have a problem with it, where it's a lot harder to. And even if you did overuse it, you'd have to really, really try, like really try hard. And that's kind of awesome about it. Me and Kyle went there just last week, and we got some pure kava drinks. They had them like in a keg. Anyone who's interested in like a really good kind of drinking experience, definitely go to the Square Root. It's on Barton Springs. It's here in Austin. I don't know if there are any outside of Austin. I don't think there is, but
didn't she say that was like the only one in Texas, or just Austin?
I think she said it was the only one in Texas.
Yeah,
which is crazy because I think soon there will be tons all over the place because it's such an awesome drink and it's such an awesome feeling, and you can do so much with it. Kind of like what we were talking about, where you could make like a cocktail, like you could have like a margarita almost. You could make margarita mix with the ice and everything blended up, and then put some kava in it, and it would be like a relaxing summer drink, and it wouldn't be as taxing to your body as alcohol. And I know I'm kind of like pressing on this point, but it's like alcohol is only, and I drink alcohol. I'll have a beer every now and then. I'm not trying to be that guy who's like, everyone should stop drinking alcohol forever, because I really like beer. I actually enjoy it. I enjoy a good beer. But one thing is like, when people partying, what they're looking for is that buzz feeling, that like drunk feeling, where you feel like really relaxed and like, a little impaired, like a little bit, and your inhibitions are down. And that's what this gives you, except it's not toxic to your body. And kind of like in that range where people have like 3 or 4 drinks. But if you have 3 or 4 drinks of kava, it's a lot less taxing on your liver, which is really good. But one thing is like, there needs to also be other options. So if there's going to be alcohol bars here, there better fucking be kava bars as well. Like, there better be all sorts of options for everyone. Just so if we want to go have a fun time, we don't have to go to a 6th Street bar. We can go to a kava bar if we want. Like, you can mix it up, and then it becomes more a part of the culture. Because the only reasons alcohol is a part of this culture is because it's socially acceptable, and because we haven't really been exposed to that many other cultures, except for a few around us, like Mexico and things like that.
I do want to throw in one other probable benefit to alcohol, actually, is that usually alcohol drinks taste better than kava.
Yeah, alcohol tastes a lot better. Kava kind of tastes like if you went and got like not a thick mud puddle, but if you went and there was like a puddle of water over a pile of dirt and you scooped up the water, that is what kava tastes like for the most part. It tastes like watery dirt water, but it's actually not that bad. It numbs your mouth and your throat while you drink it, which is an interesting feeling. And it actually doesn't taste that bad. If they added something to it, it would change it. But honestly, it's kind of like beer. Like, it's not the best tasting thing ever, but you get past the initial like bitterness a little bit, and it actually tastes all right. I mean, to be honest, I enjoyed it. It was something different, which is what we need in culture in general. It's just everyone's take on it. Like, oh, y'all drink kava over there? Let's get that here too. Like, let's share that shit, because that's just awesome. And I love having options. I love being able to do other things, because I love going to a pub, getting a cheese, getting a really good like artisan hamburger with like, a really good like beer, or like a nitro, or like something delicious, something awesome. And then I also like going and tasting kava, which kind of tastes like dirt water, but it makes you feel awesome, like really good, especially when you get like a lot of it. It's amazing.
My best description of the taste is dirty water with a hint of chili powder and Orajel.
Seriously, okay, that's the best description of it.
If you can picture that, and strangely enough, I really liked it. Like, I was downing those cups faster than you were.
Yeah, I know. I was like tasting it, and I was like, I don't know about this. This is kind of weird.
I started with the Lomi, which was the one that was supposed to be like the nastiest, and I liked that one the best. So I guess I have weird taste buds, but I really enjoyed it, actually.
Yeah, so I actually forgot that strain. So at the Square Root, there's 3 different strains. There's the Waka, which is supposed to be like more euphoric and kind of like heady. And then there's the Koa, which is supposed to be like a little more for anxiety. It's a little more sedating. And then the Lomi, which is for like pain relief and like basically like complete relaxation. But
so the Waka kind of like it gives you like some energy, I guess. It kind of has a similar effect to coffee. The Lomi has the opposite effect, kind of mellows you out, calms you down, eases your stress, and then the Lomi. Like you said, that's good for like muscular aches and pains, stuff like that. It's a real good body, and that's what I needed that day because my back was killing me.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that like it relieves stress, and so how much of an effect it does that? Because I know that, especially working in the service industry, like both of us do, you accumulate a lot of stress. And sometimes it's not even your own stress. Sometimes it's stress that people put on you, like in that situation. They literally take theirs and they take it out of them and throw it at you. It's literally an exchange. The only difference is that you can't take that and shoot it back at them. Like you can't do that because your corporation or your institution doesn't allow you to, and that's okay and valuable, but you can't give it back to them. So you just keep it in your body all day, and it builds up and shit in your body. It builds up in your back and in your muscles, and because stress is just that kind of energy. It's just you can pass it to people, and a lot of people don't understand that because they don't see communication and like kind of like body movement and behavior as an exchange. They see it as just talking, but what it really can be is you can actually transfer energy to people. Like, and you felt worse just by them saying that shit to you. They just passed it on. They were like, here's my stress, and they just give it to people all day. And you can't, I don't know if you can't, but it's hard to give it back. So you have to put it somewhere, or you have to give it another way. You could, I don't know. A lot of people do like martial arts classes when they're really stressed out because that's how you put the energy into something. You kind of beat it into, a punching bag, or, go on a run and just sweat it out and just get it out, or, anything. And kava could be one of these things where it's like a release of the stress that you accumulate every day. And it's, you can go out for a run and everything, but maybe you don't want to that night. You can just have some kava or, something else like that relieves stress. But to how much of a degree does that kava actually physically take that stress out of your body? And imagine like how your injuries at work would decrease if you didn't have so much stress, because that builds up in your body. And then when you go to do something, that's going to affect how you do it, whether it's communicating or doing something physically. And kava could be a complete release from that because it like calms your nerves. It honestly feels like your stress is gone in that time. Like whenever I used to have a tincture for kava, like a little dropper, and you would put one in, and it was probably about 3 or 4 times as strong as the kava drinks at Square Root. Probably more than that, actually. It's like the extract in this. Like it's pretty immediate, and it's pretty, it's pretty heavy, but because it does feel great. But I had it in a tincture, and I would just put it in water, and it tastes the same. It tastes like crap, and it makes that tastes worse because it's an extract. So it's like been boiled down to like basically a dark, weird liquid. There, it's like at the Square Root, it's like an actual drink, and it looks like the color of a root. It looks like what you would imagine like a ginger root to look like if you ground it up and put it into a powder and made it into a drink. But this was like, is literally brown. Like it's the color of this right here. It's gross, but it tastes a lot worse. But it feels honestly like there's this warmth over you a little bit. Like there's this kind of wave of like relaxation. And I feel like it almost pushes that shit out of your body. Like I remember I used to have a lot of anxiety around talking to people as well. And the more that I did it, the more that it like opened me up to people a little bit, the more that it kind of, and it just took my kind of like my filters away. Like usually I'll have anxiety around talking to people because of what they think about me or what I think they think about me, or what if I said something to them and what they would think about me, saying something to them. And there's just all these things in our brain that just like trap us in these little prisons. And it just took that shit away. It was just gone. And I was just able to talk to people. I was able to talk to my girlfriend, a lot, I guess, easier, but there just wasn't as much baggage. And especially working in the service industry, we carry around baggage, man. I can feel it. It accumulates over weeks and weeks, and I have to intentionally do things. Like I have to intentionally take like a saltwater bath, like with, like essential oils in it or something. And then I have to like intentionally go and work out, or like intentionally go and drink some kava, or do something like that. They're like maybe just read a book for an hour, or like I have to intentionally de-stress myself because I've just accumulated so much. And then we honestly don't understand how much we're like a magnet for energy or for stress. People's energies that they give off, we're like a magnet for it. And everyone is trying to put their stuff onto other people. So, and you'll see this a lot, and I call them energy vampires, but they're people who, and I had an experience with a coworker a long time ago where they would get really mad, and then it would make me mad. The moment that I would get really mad and frustrated about it, they would become happy. And it was really creepy because it was almost like they put it all on me, and then they were able to feel better. And now I feel like crap. So they just passed it to me. And it was like, what, do you have something to say about that?
No, I've got a lot to say about this, actually, because that's something I've learned throughout my life. And this could apply to everything in life, pretty much. It's all about your attitude. And it's like you said, people will try to put their own stress onto you, and that makes them feel better about themselves. But what I've learned is those people who are trying to bring you down, make you feel negative, make you feel bad because of their own stuff. If you can let that just like wash over you, and it's hard to do because people still get to me, but I've learned this and I try to practice this in every part of my life. I don't let it get to me. I just still have a good attitude about myself and my life. And I'll tell you one thing, those people that try to bring you down, if they can't, it just frustrates them even more. Have you ever heard, I think there's a saying, it's like the best revenge is living a happy life. People with negative attitudes that try to bring you down, I guess my reaction to people like that is, my thought process is, they're going to go around the rest of their day and the rest of their week, the rest of their year, and they're going to feel those negative attitudes. And I feel sorry for them. They're walking around with that kind of attitude that things are shitty and they got to bring other people down to make them feel better. And I just feel sorry for them because I'm not going to let that, I'm not going to let them affect me. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, I have my own energy and they're trying to put their energy on me, and I'm not gonna take all that in.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times that attitude, actually, I find, like, if I resist that they're trying to put on me, they kind of calm down, and it makes them feel better too. Like I can put my positive energy on other people too. You know what I mean? Like that's
the other part of it too, is putting the positive energy on them, and turning, like, it's almost like an alchemy process. Like, take their negative energy and then turn it into positive energy and process it and then give it back to them. Like, oh, this could be positive actually. And then they're like, oh, wow, Fuck. Yeah.
Like they'll either have one of two reactions. When I'm like, when people yell at me, I'm smiling like, all right, well, you're upset about this. This is how we fix the situation. And I'm just smiling the whole time, and I'm happy, and I'm not going to let it bother me. And they'll either have one of two reactions. They'll calm down and be like, okay, all right, yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I'll get this. Or they just get even more frustrated. Like, why aren't you more concerned about this? And I'm like, I'm not going to let it bring down my attitude. Like, we've got a problem and we've got a solution. This is our solution. So let's do the solution.
No. And that's actually like, I honestly didn't even think about that, because that's almost one of the best things you can do, is try and not necessarily not let it affect you, but see the best way to getting to a solution, or see the best way in making light of a situation, or making it better just for everyone and for yourself. It's like, if you can figure out a way to take someone's bad attitude towards you and turn it into something positive, or take it and understand it and be like, oh, this is probably why they're getting mad at me. You can come up with things in your mind, and one thing for sure is, you will never ever be away from it. You will never ever be completely away from people's negative energy. And it's something that we all just have to deal with. And there are certain ways that are better than others for dealing with. And I think what you said is definitely one of them, is not letting it become a personal jab. So not letting it become, you're a shitty guy, or you're a shitty person because I'm angry. And that's how some people process it. They process it as, I'm not good enough, or I am this not so great person. And they let it have that association where it affects them on that level. And then they have that association with other people's negative energy, and then it just compounds and compounds and compounds on them, and until it accumulates so much that they have a breakdown. And maybe, for some people, maybe they have don't know how to process it at all, and it just accumulates, and everyone's stressed. People who are depressed, in a sense, everyone's stress just accumulates on them. And then maybe one day they go and they just crack. They go and shoot up a school. They go, and I'm not defending people who shoot up schools or anything, but maybe they go and they crack, and they go and, beat someone up, or they go and tell you you're a fucking asshole at your job, or, they tell me I'm doing a shitty job. I've had people who've waited in line too long and got mad at me. And it's like, there's a line. Like, what, are we back in high school now? Like, what am I gonna do? Like, am I gonna make the line go faster? Like, how do you whenever you thought about it in your mind, what the fuck were you thinking? Like, yeah, I'm just fucking, waiting in this long ass line, like, looking at me like
you're gonna say to everybody else in line, hang on, everybody, this person's upset, so he gets to go to the front of the line.
It's like, all right, so this guy's not having a great day. Everyone move out of the way for this guy. It's like, no. And you could tell that he wasn't in a hurry. He was just sitting there watching everything and like, wow, good job, guys. Like, it's packed. Whenever I come in here, it shouldn't be packed. I should go straight to the front of the line. It's like, and then some people try and cut the line. They, like, one person came up to me and tried to get in front of everyone. Like, he went around the line and came to the bar, tried to order it. I was like, oh no. I was like, oh, you check you out over there. And he was like, oh yeah, I was trying to avoid the line. I was just like, yeah, that's not a thing. It doesn't happen. Like, that's not how this works. Like, no, I didn't say that, but I was like, no, we check people out at the register and you did all right. And he like was all pissed off. I was like, that's what happens when you go into a store. Like, you prepare for that. Like, if you know what happens at a coffee shop, which is where I work, at a restaurant. It's like no one knows when it's going to be busy and when it's not going to be busy. It depends, like all the time. So you prepare for that. So, you know, do I have time? Even if there's a line, do I have time to go to the coffee shop? Like, it can be solved. It's like if you come there and there's a full line and you don't have time to wait that long, walk out. Like, there's a fucking gas station right down the road. Like, there's other places you can go to get coffee. Like, it's not the only place. Or like get food. It's like there are other places that don't have a full line. It's like I know they're customers, but it's like, man, if it's that big of a deal, like, just go, you know, go somewhere else.
You could also say, "Hey, everybody in line, if I give you each $5, can I move to the front?" You know, there's always workarounds. You know,
and that's when you know that person isn't very creative. If they have to get 4 coffees or their boss is going to get really pissed off, that's what I would do. I'd be like, if I give everyone here $5, will you let me in front of you? And it's like, if you're some, you know, old successful guy, you should be able to dish out like $20 or $30. It's like, and if it's that important to you to spend $30, it's like, then do it. Like, or some other way. Like, hey, everyone in line, like, I have this fucking emergency. Like, I have to get to work like in 5 minutes, and I need to bring coffee. Like, can y'all please let me in front of you? And it's one person. If he had like 3 friends behind him, like, can you let all my friends in too? Like, that'd be different. But it's like, that. Like, usually people will be like, yeah, okay. Like, and if one person at the front is like, no, you can't go in front of me, then just get behind him, or, you know, try and figure it out.
It's like if you're at the grocery store and you're buying like a candy bar and somebody in front of you has a whole cart full of groceries, and you'd be like, you mind if I go first? Because I'll just be like 30 seconds ringing up for this one candy bar. Yeah. Most people are not going to be like, no, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, I understand that. It's like, oh, yeah, sure. It's like, it's going to take like 10 seconds to check out. It's going to be like, scan, swipe your card. All right. Now it's my turn. It's like, you know, what does it matter? I think a lot of times what I do is I overcomplicate how much time I have during the day. So I overcomplicate what I'm going to have to do. And I'll be like, oh, I have this to do today, so I won't have this. I won't have time to do that. And it's like, actually, there's usually time. There's definitely time to wait a few seconds or even a minute for someone in front of you. Like, I know I overcomplicate that a lot. And I think a lot of people do as well, because we kind of live in this society where everything is like 100% all the time. It's like go, 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 go. And if you're not lounging, but if you're kind of taking it easy, people get frustrated with you because you're not acting like there's an urgency to every moment. And so they'll kind of be like, oh, what are you doing? You're walking slow in the grocery store? Like, get the fuck out of the way. Like, I'm going places, man. Like, and a lot of people are kind of stuck in that place where they are caught up in the current, kind of. Like, if you could imagine, there's like a current to almost like exactly like in the ocean, there's like a pull to it. So day in and day out, some people are stuck in this current, and it's just leading them along, and they're just going and going and going and going, and just 100% all day long. And they don't have any time to step outside of it and be like, oh, there's a whole fucking world out here. And, you know, I don't have to be trapped into my stress like forever and trapped into this weird kind of, it's almost like a current. It's like a pattern, or I would say it's like almost like not a path, but it's kind of like a pressure or a force kind of pushing you forward a little bit. But a lot of people are just trapped inside of that stress. It's almost like a trap, but it's like they're just flowing along through it, and they're just like, okay, all right, trying to make everything, you know, like easier on myself, and just like, get through this every day. And you just accumulate so much stress if you don't ever step outside of it and be like, okay, maybe I should just not, you know, maybe I should I don't know, take some time for myself, which is something that I've actually been having to do recently. It's like a lot of people don't take time for themselves and they don't take care of themselves. So then it accumulates more stress, and then other people's stress accumulates on them. And then it's just like, ugh, becomes like a boiling pot for just nasty, nasty shit.
Have you ever tried to change lanes on the highway and somebody will just not let you get over?
Yeah.
I try to make a point. If somebody's trying to change lanes and I'm just like going the same speed as them, or I'm a little behind, I'll hit my brakes, slow down, and let them go over because it's not a big deal. It doesn't slow me down at all. We're still going the same speed. I'm just getting out of the way so they can get over. Like this person was trying to get over when I was driving down Brody Lane the other day, and they were trying to get over, and they were just ton of cars not letting them through. Finally, I slowed down and let them in front of me, and they were trying to make the turn that was right in front of me. So they got over in the lane, they turned, and then I just kept going. And it's funny how people react, and it's hard to tell because they're in their cars, but it's almost like they're surprised that you're letting them over.
Yeah, it's weird. Like if I'm coming up really fast and there's someone like coming out of a gas station, then I'll just go in front of them because it's like
well, that's the regular. Like I never interrupt the regular flow of traffic. Like I'm not going to stop to let somebody turn unless it's like you're backed up at a red light and somebody's trying to get out. And then it's pretty common courtesy. But it's amazing how it's not. It seems like it's almost not common courtesy to let somebody get over into the next lane.
Yeah,
it's like most people think, okay, I'll let you get over just after I get in front of you.
Yeah,
because like, being in front of your car is somehow going to get me to where I'm going faster.
Yeah, it's like, but then there's going to be another car in front of you eventually. Like, come on, like, and that's the thing is like when you're like, especially on the highway, like if I see a car far behind me and they're coming up, and I put on my blinker and I'm like working on getting into the other lane where I want to, and they're coming up, sometimes they'll speed up. And I'm like, are you even thinking? Like, do you, what are you doing? And then when I let people over, sometimes they're like, oh, awesome. Like, and they come over. It's almost like a recognition, like, wow, you actually consider me another human being. And you're like, oh, great, awesome. Like, you're actually letting me over. It's a gesture where it's like, hey, it's no big deal. Come on, like, you're cool. Like, let's go. And some people are like, no, this is my lane. And I get where I'm going. I'm going to be in front of you. It's like, how and sometimes that's how they live their life. So they live like that, and then they live like that outside of their car. So their car is just one medium for that behavior, which is sometimes in part that they're late and they are just stressed out and want to get ahead of you. And sometimes it's just people who just live that way and are just constantly trying to get in front of everyone else, in front of people at the line. Like if someone, gets in front of them at the line before they do, it's almost like, oh, like, I should be in the front of the line. Like it's the same kind of people who want to skip the line. It's like for the people who will risk their life to change lanes because someone is turning somewhere. Like whenever you're behind someone and they're turning, like I'll usually look because I don't want to wait, and I'll look and be like, all right, I can change lanes now. But some people will like change lanes dangerously just so they don't have to wait that like 2 seconds for that person to turn. Like shit. Like driving is a life or death situation. Like I've physically with my own eyes seen like 3 really bad accidents on the road. Like one of them on 360. Well, I think two of them on 360. I've seen like head-on collisions. Like it's fucking life or death. Like if I were to freaking T-bone you while you were coming out and like smash into you going like 30 miles an hour, it's like good luck, dude. Your head's at least split open against the glass, like at least. Not to mention your shoulder's probably going to be dislocated, like fucked up, maybe broken. Like, do you think about that, like at all? Like whenever that's happening, and sometimes I'll do something really dangerous, and I'll be like, "Sam, that was stupid. Like, why'd you do that?" Like, you're just thinking with your stress, like you're just thinking with your fucking fear and nervousness, and like, "Oh, am I going to get to work on time?" It's like, you know what? Getting to work 1 minute late is probably better than dying or breaking your fucking body with because we're driving around in these giant machines, like these huge, like half-ton cars that are like made of metal, and we're going like 60 miles an hour down the highway. It's so dangerous. It kills the most people out of anything a year. Like, I don't know about like heart disease and things like that, but it kills hundreds of thousands of people a year. And no one's like, yeah, we should be real careful. Like, everyone's pissed off about the speed limits, but it's like it's really dangerous. Like, going 40 is really dangerous.
It's a really crazy thing. The fact that humans get in these automobiles and drive is actually a pretty crazy thing, because not only are you putting your trust in this big heavy machine, you're putting your life in the hands of this machine and all the other people around you on the road. Your life is essentially in the hands of everybody else on the road. And I don't know if you've met people, but I've met a lot of people that I probably wouldn't trust my life to.
No.
And I'm out here, doing 60, just driving around these people, hoping that nobody's going to crash into me.
Yeah.
And hoping that, like, my truck is not just suddenly going to blow a tire and I'm going to do a barrel roll.
Yeah. Do a barrel roll. Do a barrel roll. Okay. And, like, sometimes I don't know how many times I've said, like, what a psycho in the car, because I'll be driving and someone will do something so insanely stupid. It's like, if you took 1 second more to assess what was happening, you wouldn't have been done that thing, which I would say, you're a psycho. Like, what are you doing? Like, oh my God. And there are drastic things where it's like, I have never done that stupid of a thing. Like, I've driven pretty fast down the road. That's one stupid thing that I've done. I've driven maybe like 80 or 90 on the road. Like, it's not too much, but it's still pretty stupid. It's like, that increases your chance of dying like tenfold. And I'm not saying people shouldn't take risks, or people, should live in the comfort zone and live in this, like, oh, I'm going to drive 30 down the highway. It's like,
because that can cause as many accidents too, and not necessarily people not paying attention and hitting you because you're driving slow, but people get frustrated that you're driving that slow, doing something
as well.
Because when I get behind somebody and they're driving 10 miles under the speed limit, I start to get a little frustrated.
Yeah, exactly. And
covering your Adam's apple.
No, I've seen it. It would, because it's switching a lot. I was seeing if it would like block the noise or something, because it's switching really fast between us. Anyways, it's probably okay. But we were just talking about it. Oh yeah, so yeah, and then driving slow would also do that. It's like, that would cause more havoc. But as well, it's like, yeah, same thing. It's like, I don't know how many times I've literally, like, physically been like, you're a psycho. Like, what are you doing? Because, and I don't trust anyone on the road. Like, one thing that I'm going to teach my kids one day, if I ever have kids or can, it's like, I'm like, literally, this is what I think. Everyone on the road is crazy until they prove otherwise. Like, everyone on the road doesn't know how to drive very well. They're a psycho. They're going to make stupid decisions. And I'm always on the lookout for people who are doing something stupid. And I always look both ways when I cross an intersection, because sometimes I've seen people run a red light. Just, woo! Like, right. And I have one time not been paying attention at a red light and looking at my phone, and it turned green, and I was like, oh, late for it, and a person just right past me. And I was like, wow, if I had been paying attention, I might be dead. Like, anytime you're in a car, that's what I would tell everyone. Presume everyone's crazy and everyone's gonna run that red light.
Never assume somebody's going to do something logical or what you expect them to do. Like, I got another example of that the other day. I was at a stoplight waiting to turn right onto a busy road, and there was a car coming up, and they had their blinker on, like they were going to turn right, like right into where I was trying to turn out. I was like, I better wait and see if they actually turn. And they started to slow down and then sped right back up. So if I had started to pull out, they would have just slammed right into me.
God.
I've always done it, and usually the people actually turn, but I've always waited for them to actually start turning before I go out, and it definitely paid off that time.
Yeah, some people will just forget. They'll put their blinker on. Like I have when I'm on the highway and I'll be in the lane and my blinker will still be on. And I'm like, turn that shit off.
But they were actually slowing down to turn too. Like they were going to, and I guess like last minute they realized it wasn't their turn and they just sped back up.
God. Yeah, that's what people got to be real cognizant of, because there are people out there that don't give a shit about you. They don't care about you on the road. They don't give a shit about your life, especially people in giant trucks, like the huge jacked up trucks. They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about you.
Not watching.
Yeah. I hope Austin is watching. No, I don't know if Austin's a dick on the road, but it's like these huge jacked up trucks, and they like it because they feel powerful for everyone else. So they have a giant truck, and until a semi truck comes up, and then big truck, tiny dick. But they're kind of posturing in that way because it's like, no, I'm bigger than everyone else on the road, and it might be safer to have a truck. And I honestly have thought about it several times, getting a truck, because it's bigger, and there is definitely more that's protecting you from the environment outside. But a lot of times these guys, think they're hot shit, and they are just reckless. And it's like, listen, it's almost like you should be safer in a big truck. Like you should be more cognizant of that and not less, because you can still get fucked up really bad in a truck. Like I've known people that have gotten really messed up in a truck. Maybe less so than if they were in a car, but I mean,
if I were to get T-boned by a minivan, I'd rather be in like a big F-250 than in a Prius.
Yeah, exactly. Like a Prius would be just like, it would be like a puff. Like,
have you ever walked by a Prius and just kind of thought, I feel like I could just like tip that car over?
Yeah, just like kick it over, just like freaking like.
Oh, I don't know. God. Priuses may be like really safe cars. I'm not sure. Well, actually, I think that more about smart cars. I feel like I could lift them up and just.
Smart cars are not safe. If a Prius had a roll cage, then it would be more safe. It would probably be a lot more safe, but it's not made of that. And neither is a smart car. Smart cars are even worse. It's like driving a go-kart around the highway. Like you could probably tip one of those over. No joke. I mean, it probably doesn't weigh that much. It probably weighs like 200 or 300 pounds. Like probably not. I mean, maybe not that, maybe it weighs like 400, but it's certainly not that much. It's tiny. It's like maybe it's like as much as my arm length is the car. Like what? Like I don't know how people buy those cars. Like if it were up to me, I mean, maybe not if it were up to me, because then there wouldn't be a spectrum. But people should think about buying big, safe cars. I mean, that's one thing. Like, yeah, Prius is like, good for the environment, but you got to think about your life as well. Like, you're not going to be here for too long unless you live a long, long time. So, I mean, you might as well be safe in your car while you're around. Like, I get it. People want to make an impact, but it's like, then get a hybrid truck. Like, that's the thing.
Should just drive around in tanks.
Yeah, exactly. That would be awesome, because no one would get hurt.
Yeah.
And you might like get shaken around and like, oh God.
I mean, unless you like crashed into a building, then you might bring the building down. There's always that possibility.
What are those tanks called? They're called like Tiger tanks that drive really fast. They drive like 30.
Yeah, something like that.
30 or 40. I was like, that'd be cool. You could, I mean, not functional tanks, because then there'd be definitely tank wars.
Yeah,
that would not be.
Well,
more like an armored vehicle, like a
Humvee,
or like a treaded. What are they called? The transport vehicles with the treads, and they just like transport people. That would be cool.
I like the Humvees because you got the security without all the douchiness of a Hummer.
No, oh my God! So. And a machine gun mount. That would be a good thing. So, have you ever seen a Hummer truck?
I don't. Yes, I
They're
have.
pretty badass. Like that's the thing. I wish they would have kept making H2s and maybe not H3s. They're kind of weird, but they should make an H2 truck. That would be so epic. If it was like a good size long bed truck, oh my gosh, that would be awesome. Because I would want one. I saw an H3 truck at my work, and I was like, damn, that looks badass. But it's probably like $30,000.
Yeah,
30 or 40. It's
probably
like
more. Probably
yeah, yeah. It's probably on par with like the King Ranch edition trucks and all that stuff. I have to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
All right, I'll just hang out here. That's the other thing about the kava. It goes right through you.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. Quick break. But I also kind of wanted to get into the whole alpha male thing. And one thing that I think that is something that definitely relates to what we're talking about right now, and kind of like what we're talking about in kind of like posturing with people with kind of big, big trucks and big posturing and big egos, is that we have certain people who've been either convinced or who have an idea of what it means to be kind of like an alpha male or an alpha female. And one of the things they do is something like the people in the service industry or like people who cut you off is they're not being considerate of you. They're taking the dominant position. They're taking the power position even though they don't necessarily deserve it. So even though they don't necessarily actually have the power position or actually have the knowledge position or the position where they are actually right, they just understand that you won't do anything to them back. And that's why it's seen as so kind of like it's looked down upon, is because you don't honestly deserve to talk that way, because you wouldn't talk that way to anyone else. And if they do, then that's just their personality, and that's just their stuff. But what a lot of people are doing is they're posturing as an alpha or posturing as an alpha male and pretending like it, kind of like we talked about at the kava bar. And they have to put on a facade that they are the dominant one, because they really don't feel that way in their real life. And that's one thing that people do, is they use certain situations to make themselves feel powerful in their lives, even though they aren't powerful in their lives. And one of the things you could be powerful at is like what you were saying, something that you're powerful at is maintaining your attitude in a situation. And one of the best things that I've heard is that the one thing that you have control over in this life at all is how you react to situations, which is exactly what you're talking about. Maintaining your attitude in a situation. So one thing that we do have complete autonomy over is how we react to all this stuff, all this energy, all this, all of these events happening. And that was a really good point to add, is because that correlates into it as well. It's like those people who have to pretend to be what could be called an alpha male, which the definition of that comes from the study of like lower apes and how their cultures how their culture is built and how their like social hierarchy is built. And basically it's how gorillas act. And gorillas, first of all, are huge and very durable and like fast, and they're fanged and they're fucking vicious, and they're super powerful. The way they act should be correlated to how we act, because they're monkeys. We're kind of the same, except we're less durable because we have all this technology.
I think your mic is cutting out a little bit.
It is?
Yeah, it's kind of getting garbled. I think when you sat back, it started getting a little garbled.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's kind of like.
Ish. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Well, I could hear you. It's just like getting all like staticky.
Might be for my shirt, or maybe this couch thing.
Maybe it might. I didn't know like what kind of range that had for the.
Oh no, this should have like a 10 or 15 foot range. Can you hear me though in it?
Yeah.
It's just a little weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Well. Anyways, we're kind of softer than that, and we're more complicated. So when it comes to being like an alpha male or like an alpha female, or like whatever if you want to be identified as something else, that's fine too. But being like an alpha person, in a sense, doesn't depend on a facade, some kind of act that you put on. It's actually a big part of it is what you said, is how well you assess situations and how well you assess interactions with people and with things in the environment. And we're kind of moving away from the paradigm of alpha males being the dominators, because that's kind of how our culture has been, and cultures around the world have been for a long time, is they've been dominators. So they've come to a place and been like, this place is mine now, screw you guys. We've kind of been a dominating force, and it's coming to now where we're being more of a facilitating force, where we're kind of facilitating things for other people. And that's kind of how I see alpha personalities being, is people who are themselves, true to themselves so much that it directly affects how other people then act. So they don't have to dominate people, and they don't have to assert themselves over other people to get their message across or to send a message to people. They just are what they are, and it then spreads through energy, through exchanges and things like that. It's not subliminal. It's just a quality. It's just like it's almost like unconscious. Like you don't have to think about it. You don't have to go into a room and be like, how am I going to think about being an alpha in this room and like really just dominating the space? It's like, if you're true to yourself, you'll dominate the space. If you're true to yourself and genuine to yourself, you won't have to try and dominate it. You won't have to try and disseminate all your information. It's just going to happen. and it won't be a kind of assertive, like, this is what I think it's right. If you're true to yourself, people will be attracted to that. That's the thing that I think people are most attracted to. And that's one thing that we've actually been talking about this whole time, kind of unconsciously, is basically fake alpha people who think that getting in front of you is better than letting you pass in front of them. Because real leaders are at the back.
Yep. Have you ever seen that? I guess a post about like how the structure of a pack of wolves is while they're traveling.
Yeah.
They have the slowest at the front, and then like the young ones and the females in the middle, and then the alpha, the leader, is at the very back of the pack watching everybody.
Yeah,
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it is really cool, and it's like, because how are they going to see? Like, leaders don't necessarily stand in the front and lead everyone, because you can't see what's going on back there. Like, what's happening? Like, what? Yeah, you definitely have a lead in a certain direction, but you don't just leave behind people, and you certainly don't have them behind you, because then you can't see what's going on. If you're in the back and everyone's in front of you, you can see what's happening. There's something over here that's going to come over. Obviously we're making this metaphor to like a pack of wolves, but like in the context of the wolf, you can see everything. So if there's something coming over, if there's a deer, or like if there's anything, if there's food over here, you can be like, hey guys up front, let's go over there. Like, or you can direct and you can affect the pack more than if you're in front and you have to address everyone, and like your back is to everyone too, which is not that great of a thing as well, because people can stab you in the back easier, for sure. So if you're at the back, you can see everything, you can, make sure everything's cool, you can assess the situation better than if you're in the front and you're just in front of everyone, you're just ahead of everyone, and then as well, that kind of positioning is something you have to maintain. So if someone gets ahead of you, that's seen as a threat to your ego, to yourself. And that's a big one as well, is that people now are kind of getting to the realization that when people do better than them, it's a good thing. If let's say if I'm in the position of a pack leader and someone does above and beyond than me, that's good. I don't know how that's bad. I mean, if someone does better than you, isn't that your goal? I mean, that should be the goal of an alpha personality or an alpha male or a pack leader, is you want them to do better than you. You want to get them to a point where they can do as good as you, and then you want them to do better, because then both of you do better. Because then you learn about this new thing. It's like if they do better than you at something, then you just learn something, and now you're just as good, if not better than them, and then you can add on to that. And it's like, whenever we create these leader personalities where they're in front of everyone and they're supposed to be better than everyone, kind of like the alpha male of a gorilla pack, who have to fight like physically with each other to get the females. And that's another thing that has translated maybe through genes into our culture as well, is this alpha male pack mentality where people have to fight to get the most wanted females. And it's like, we don't have to, and that's especially for like positions of power, positions of like elite stature, is you have to fight everyone, and it's almost like you fight or you just don't. You die, or you just fall off the pack, and that is toxic because it creates a violent environment where people are out to get each other, even in an environment where it's supposed to build a company or build a business or build a structure, like politicians, like the House of Cards, kind of, where that guy has to literally be a fucking killer, basically. Like, he has to have a killer mindset in order to get into the presidency or get into a high position. And he has to like blackmail people and fuck everyone's lives up. And it's like, how is that going to create a better? Can you hear?
Yeah, didn't really.
Again.
Yeah.
Then I'll just sit up. But
maybe
yeah,
the
I mean,
battery's low on it.
Maybe. No, it's actually high.
Really?
Yeah, it said it was high when it started. Maybe I just have to talk louder. How's that? Is that better?
No, I don't like when you're sitting close to the computer, it gets a lot clearer.
Huh.
I don't know what it is. That's weird.
But so one thing as well is that, like, creating that killer instinct, it creates an environment where the people are fighting each other. And in any situation, I think that's stupid. Like, to be honest, it's like if people were fighting to get a job or fighting to get this or fighting to get that, and they all were out to get each other, how is that company going to grow? Like, how are politicians and all of these institutions going to grow if they're all after each other? And if the pack or the culture is out for other people, it just builds and it builds and it builds and it builds and it doesn't stop. And that's where I think this kind of what I call pseudo alpha male mentality kind of comes from, is that it kind of comes from that fight or flight response. Like, I need to fight other people to get to the position I want in this world. And it's not about helping other people or being true to yourself. It's about creating this tough outer exterior where you can just fight everything off. And there will be times when you have to stand up for yourself, of course, but that's not, you shouldn't just be a tough exterior and a facade throughout the whole process. I mean, it's scary to think, and this is a big thing with men, especially, is the whole alpha male thing. There's even there's really popular videos on YouTube about subliminally dominating conversation and subliminally getting women to be attracted to you. And it's really creepy. It's really freaking weird. It's like, do you really need to send subliminal messages to women to have them be attracted to you or like you or anyone to like you, or for you to have conversations? Like, if, I feel like if you have to literally, if you, oh my God, if you have to subliminally send messages to people just to get them to like you, why should they like you? Like, that's the thing, is like, you aren't genuine. Like, how true are you to that you have to subliminally send messages to people? How alpha are you if you have to do that? How alpha are you if you have to put on this facade? Why don't you concentrate on getting to a point where you just are that, and you just are the alpha and the leader in your own life, and then that just transitions and that just permeates everything. And in my opinion, I mean, people are directly drawn to that, and I don't think it needs to be. Yeah, the mic is still on my thing. I don't know why, but I mean, I don't know if you've had this kind of interaction with other people, but how have you run into this? Like, this kind of thing where people are trying too hard to do something, and it often happens in the dating scene. But have you ever had experiences like that with people?
Oh yeah. I've run into plenty of people like that, and I'm always quick to recognize it, or I like to think so. I can tell when somebody genuinely has I guess it's hard to explain, but I can tell when somebody's like overdoing it to try to seem like a superior person, or like they're like over the top cool, or like have that alpha mentality. I mean, I guess the way you can tell is because they're trying to prove it instead of just being that type of person. You know, like you talked about like trying to get jobs at work and finding other people for it. If I were ever getting a promotion at work, I wouldn't like try for it or try to kiss up. You know, my attitude with work and getting promoted at jobs is I'm going to do the best job I can so I can be proud of myself. I don't look for praise at my jobs. I just do it because I'm proud of the work I do. And people tend to see that. Like at my job, I got promoted like 3 times in 2 years just for having that mentality. I'm going to do the best job I can so I can be proud of myself because, you know, I guess that's to me, that's the right attitude to have about anything in life. You know, I'm going to do this because I want to be proud of the person who I am and the job that I do, the work that I do. But people who try to give an image like they're that type of person, but don't really go the extra mile and just try to make a point of, hey, I'm doing this and I did this really well. And yeah, I don't know. But it's one of those things that's hard to explain, but I can recognize when I see it in a person, people who make a big point of like showing off the things they do. And I guess it's kind of a weird thing for me to be saying like I'm more humble.
I'm so much more humble than you do.
But that's what I try to be. I try to be humble about things, not make a big deal about myself or anything. And whatever I do it for me, you know, so that I can feel good about myself and not try to impress other people.
That's a really good point too. Is that you are just being true to yourself, and I feel like that is more important than you trying to be something. And that's really important because if you are just genuine and true to yourself and true to what you believe and true to your autonomy as an individual, then you don't need to put on a facade. You don't need to pretend like you are this awesome person because you believe it yourself and you just are that person. And that's probably one of the most valuable things to kind of what we represent at this podcast is that if you are the best version of yourself and you are the best you that you can be, that is the best thing that you can do in your life, period. Because not only does it make your life better to be true to yourself, but it makes life better for other people because they see you being true to yourself and they're affected by it and they want to be true to their self. And then what that does is if you make that individual choice, you affect other people in that way because they want to be like that. And then if everyone does that, then we create change. And we stop creating these kind of leader guru people, like gurus or leaders or masters that we all look up to, that stand at the front of the pack and tell us what to do instead of, leading from the back and being the foundation, being the almost like being the pillar, being yourself, being that pillar self where you can just sit there and be strong for everyone else and everyone who walks up and, tries to push at you or, do this, poke at you. It's like, nah, I'm sitting here. This is me. And if you want to have this kind of, if you want to have confidence, which is what a lot of people look for, because they're anxious about what people think about them, or they're really over perceptive about things. If you want confidence, be true to yourself. If you want confidence, be genuine, because then it doesn't matter who you run into. It doesn't matter if you meet the president of the United States. If you're true to yourself and you're confident in who you are and what you believe, you don't need to put on a facade. You don't need to act in any particular way. And that's probably one of the most important things you can carry on to in this life, because we need to get rid of those kinds of leaders who only got to where they are because they acted tough and because they acted all alpha and acted all cool. And now they are in positions of power and in positions where people look up to them as that. Like these really famous people on YouTube. We're talking about being an alpha male by subliminally messaging to other people. And it's not that way. It shouldn't be that way. And these people are looked up to, and it's people in all areas of the society who are in these leader positions because they acted like gorillas and got to where they are because they acted like basically they acted violent. They acted viciously and got to where they are because they basically fought their way. Instead of being true to themselves, they put on a facade. So it's time that we honestly start to discern this for ourselves and start to be truer to ourselves, truer to our own purpose and our own genuinity, because that's what correlates to everything else in the world, in relationships, in everything, is being true to yourself. And that's kind of the point of the podcast as well, is to connect to as many people who are true to that thing, that the self, basically. If you're true to yourself, that is what an alpha is. And we need to strip down the power of these individuals who put on the facade that they're all alpha and maintain an image, but aren't true to themselves. And you can tell who these people are because they try too hard, to be honest. And they have this image or this facade of what they could, what they want you to think about them, instead of being that thing and building that thing through, perception, through hard work, through maintaining yourself. Because I know you talked about being true to yourself, and how hard is that for you to maintain while you're at work? Like, how hard is that for you to be true to yourself and maintain a proper attitude when people are treating you in the way that they do?
Well, it's not always easy, and it's not just work; it's everywhere in life. People still can get to me. I'm not impervious to abuse or negative attitudes. It's a hard thing to do, and it's something that basically the way I've learned to improve myself is I force myself into those situations that make me uncomfortable, and I force myself to have to deal with them. Like, just working the type of job that I have, like, you knew me in high school. I was never the talkative type. Like, if we did this in high school or even right after high school, like, I wouldn't be able to talk like this on a podcast, just forcing myself into that environment where I've got to talk. I've got to be able to talk to people. That's caused me to grow up a lot. It's just something that I'm working at. I'm still not even the best at not letting people's attitudes affect me, but something I'm working at. It's really difficult, but it's something you just got to learn for yourself. I don't think anybody can. It's one of those things that you just got to experience and learn from, and grow from it. So yeah, it's a difficult thing. It's not easy, but I guess too, it depends on the person, because I feel like there's a lot of things that do not come naturally to me that come very naturally to other people. And, but there's nothing you can't learn to do. There's nothing you can't experience and learn from and learn to do. Some people it's easier than others. But yeah, it's still difficult to me. It's a difficult thing. It's not something that comes naturally. It's something I've had to adapt to.
Yeah, it's almost something that you have to kind of struggle to maintain throughout life in general. And it's kind of a fight, but it's a fight for yourself. And it's not a fight to maintain dominance over everyone. It's a fight to maintain the structure of yourself and maintain your own integrity. Because if you can bring integrity to everyone else, there's nothing else that's useful to our. I mean, yeah, there's things like you make and things like that, but the most important thing that you could do is be integral to yourself and have integrity. Which is, I mean, my gosh, that's one of the most important things you can do in life in general is genuinely what you want to be. And yeah, I mean, my gosh, we covered quite a few topics today, to be honest.
It's funny. A lot of this kind of attitude that I'm talking about, I learned from my dog.
Really?
Just seeing the way, because he's definitely had the alpha mentality since he was a pup. He wasn't the biggest one in his litter, but his breeder, they called him Boss because he was like the toughest, like bossiest one out of all of them. And he got at one point to where he would overdo it some. And like he just because he wasn't fixed, and he hit that age where he had a lot of adrenaline and testosterone, and he was just like over the top aggressive. And I had to learn to deal with that and learn the right way to respond to it. And like he basically would test me to see if I would be submissive to him. He would test me to see if I was afraid of him, and I had to show him that I wasn't. Not necessarily by responding. I did the same thing he does. Like when I take him out in public and other dogs come up and bark at him, and he stands there, he's posturing a bit, like he's standing there, he's tall and proud, and he doesn't respond to other dogs barking right in his face. He just holds his ground, shows him that he's not gonna retaliate. He's not gonna like stoop down and just start fighting every dog to prove that he's the toughest. He in his mind, he's the toughest, and he knows it. So whatever you're going to do, barking in my face and snapping at me, it's not going to bother me. And
that's so. Oh wait, sorry, keep going.
And that's kind of the same thing I had to do with him. I'd show him that like him getting an attitude with me, it's not going to bother me, and it's not going to work. It's not going to get a reaction out of me. And that definitely has worked better than like I tried the alpha roll thing where you roll them on their side, and that just made it worse. Like he just wanted to fight me even more, and then I finally just got to that point where I wasn't afraid of him coming at me because I knew he was testing me. He wasn't going to hurt me, but I had to show him that I wasn't afraid. If I had backed off and been afraid, he would have gotten more aggressive. But show him that he wasn't afraid, and he backs down. And now I'm definitely his alpha now. He's the beta.
He's the beta.
It's like the I always compare it to like the raptors in Jurassic World when he's the alpha, but he's like it's not about controlling them, it's about respect.
Yeah.
But
it's not about dominating the other. And one thing I wanted to add is that if he were to, in that situation at the dog park, if he were to go out and attack all these dogs, it's like he'd be exhausted for a while. And if another new dog comes up, what's he going to do to that one? Like if he's all exhausted and tired after fighting all these other dogs and making a big fuss with him, then someone else is going to come right up behind him and be like, push him over. Like, you're not really that alpha. Like, and if he stands his ground, he doesn't have to fight all the other dogs.
Yeah.
Because the dogs are just trying to get a response out of him. They want him to retaliate. But if he does, he just wastes his energy on them. He's just like, no, I don't think I'm going to use my energy on you guys today. Like, maybe he will another day, but it's like he's basically just conserving his energy for himself. And there's actually a lot of wisdom in dogs in that sense for kind of some dogs better than others because those other dogs were trying to pick fights with them. So, not all dogs are that way. But some dogs, particularly, especially ones that are used to being the boss, or have figured out, hey, I can't fight all the battles. I can't do that because then I don't have energy for myself, my own stuff. And yeah, there's freaking wisdom all over the place. It's freaking everywhere. You just got to be able to be open-minded enough to look and to see, hey, a lot of people don't think, maybe I can't learn anything from my dogs. It's like, why not? Like they're beings too. They kind of have similar social structures. Like who's the dominant one? The beta bitch. That's what some people call it, like a beta bitch. I don't know. That's kind of weird. I don't even know how that progression happens. Like alpha, beta. What's the next one? Like meta or something? Something like that.
Alpha, beta. I forget. That part of it though, I found that like definitely directly translates to people, because if somebody comes up to you and they get in your face and you don't retaliate with the same, because then you're just stupid down to their level. Like if some guy is like trying to act tough to me, like if I were in a bar or something and some guy's like trying to act tough to me or make a big, not that I've ever actually had this happen necessarily. I've had it happen in other situations, but like if somebody's trying to like make themselves seem like they're tough and wanting to pick a fight with you, if you like stand tall, just smile and be like, whatever you want, dude. Like it's like that video we were talking about it the other day, the one where those two guys got into the accident and the one guy was in his truck. He's just got the windows rolled up and he's just sitting there waiting for the police to show up, and the other guy is outside of his truck like screaming and hollering. He's like smacking on the window. He's like, come on, come out and fight me, come on, come out and fight. The guy's just like, nah.
Yeah.
I mean, which one of those guys seemed more in control of the situation? The guy that's like screaming himself out of breath, wanting to fight over a fender bender, and when the cop showed up, he got arrested. He definitely wasn't in control of the situation then.
Yeah, exactly. And the police are in control of it. And it's like how much, it takes a lot of control to not retaliate. And I think that's what puts him in the alpha position, in the position where you have control of the situation. And
now, just like with Dempsey, if a dog came up and was serious and like was attacking, Dempsey would definitely fight back. And you gotta there's a fine line between somebody being posturing and or not. I guess, is posturing the right word? I don't know.
Puffing their feathers.
Yeah, puffing. Yeah. There's definitely a difference between somebody doing that and somebody actually like a threat.
Yeah.
Is going
like if someone's trying to take away, if someone's trying to injure you and, take away that autonomy.
There's a difference between somebody trying to goad you and somebody trying to hurt you.
Yeah. Big difference. And usually the person who's trying to hurt you is, you can tell when that's going to happen, because they don't want to talk to you. They just want to hurt you. That's about it. And the people who are trying to goad you are just trying to get a response out of you. So they won't really get that close, but they'll get up in your face. Oh, you want to fight? And because someone who wants to hit you will just come up and hit you, or they'll come up and, have a knife, or they'll have something and they'll try to hit you with it.
So someone who doesn't actually want to fight but wants to make themselves seem tough, you know what they'll say? Come on, come hit me.
Yeah. Come on, hit me. Just hit me, dude. And it's so weird. It's like, you want me to hit you? Like, you just want a reaction out of me. Like, that's about it. And if you don't give them that, it makes them even more angry at you, and it makes them hate you even more and despise you, because you have more control than they do. They just gave in to their I don't know, lesser emotions, or whatever you want to call it. They gave in to being angry or insecure about their life, and so they feel angry because they're like, you definitely have more control than I do, because you're not giving me a response. You're definitely stronger than I am. So then it makes them more angry, And if you don't give them any response, you're like, dude, just, whatever. Like, I'm not gonna let that stop me from being myself and having control over myself. And the thing about it is that guy in the car had enough control over himself to not respond. And to be honest, that's all the control that the true alpha really has, is his reaction to any given situation in his life. Is that if you are a true alpha male or alpha female or whatever, whatever you want to identify as, all that is needed is that you have control over your reaction to any situation in your life, and that is the ultimate freedom, is the freedom of choice and the freedom of what you decide to act upon and what you decide not to act upon, and how you posture yourself as well, because posturing is, or reacting in a sense, is very important, because how you react defines the rest of the situation. And a big one is how you react to people. And if you can take something like a jab at you and turn it on them and make them look stupid, or them feel almost bad for even saying it. Like if someone says, if someone gets mad at you and is like, let's say like, oh yeah, you want to fight, like blah blah blah. It's like sorry man, like sorry you're having a bad day. Like, this isn't me. Like this isn't, this is you right now. Like I don't feel hatred towards you. Like, what's up? Like, are you having a bad day or something? If you turn on them, then it confuses them, and they're like, what am I gonna do? I thought this guy was gonna fight me. Like I thought he was gonna punch me, and instead he's just talking to me like intellectually or like intelligently, or like if you are caring to them, and you're like, hey man, what's going on? Like, you okay? Like everything all right? Like, if you respond to them differently than they want you to, then it confuses them and usually scares them away. Usually they'll be like, oh, like what the hell? Like, I don't know what to do now. And then they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. And they like leave or something like that. Like, what, you care about me? What are you, like, little sissy girl? Like, little fairy? Like, you fucking, what, do you love me? Like, what, do you want to kiss me? And then they try and fight you again. Or, they'll try, those kind of people will try and come up with any situation.
The best one I saw is when this guy said, why don't you punch me in the face as hard as you can? Pour some honey on me. Let me see you get real
mad. Yeah, exactly. It gets weird, honestly, at a certain point. It's almost like they have a fetish for fighting, and they like get off on it.
That one was actually from a movie. It was somebody who did that to avoid a fight.
Yeah, so you can even do that to avoid a fight. You can make it weird. You can make them uncomfortable, which is what you could do. You could, take your shirt off and like, do something weird. And then they'll be like, what the hell? And they'll probably go away. Like, you can do anything you want. You just don't have to give them the power. You can be like, I have the power of this situation. You can, like if someone tries to fight you, you can just like, one time I saw a video of a guy, I think, and he just started taking off his clothes. It just freaked the guy out. And he's like, what are you doing? And then he just like, was like, I'm through with this, and like walked away. And then, like, if you can turn the situation around on them and make them look weird and stupid, then make them uncomfortable, then it's you're in the power play. Like, if you can make them seem like the weird one in the situation and not have you seem like the little wussy who won't fight him, because that's what he wants. He wants to feel like. He wants to feel like you're the wussy and he gets to pound on, be powerful over someone. And if you get the power position and you make him look like the little pussy, then it's like.
Not to mention, if somebody were trying to fight you and you respond by just start stripping off, that takes a lot of confidence too.
Oh yeah, exactly. That takes confidence. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to do that because it'd be weird, but that's what you can do. You can just make people really uncomfortable. Like, I just asked to fight you. Why are you doing that? Like, I just asked to fight you. That's not what you're supposed to do. What you're supposed to do is get angry at me and then fight me. If you do anything other than that, it confuses the shit out of them. I don't know what to do. So, this isn't someone who's trying to hurt you. This is someone who is trying to get a response from you. There's a big difference. If someone is trying to hurt you, don't take off your clothes. Like, big one. Don't try to do anything else except defend yourself. But if someone is, you can tell when people are being tough guys and trying to be, trying to have that posture where they're like, yeah, I'm the big guy, I'm the fucking, puff their tail feathers and get all up in your face. And it's usually because they don't have that kind of power in their own life. They feel helpless all the time. And so it makes them feel really good to pick a fight with you and to feel like the powerful dude. And if you can turn that around, you can be like, well, you're not powerful in your own life and you're not powerful right now. So why don't you, go back and reassess this whole thing that you're trying to, this act that you're putting out, because it's fake, it's fuck, and everyone knows it. And
you could start tearing up and be like, come here, brave soldier, tell me who hurt
you. Yeah, or you can just start, if you can cry on command, just start crying or something weird and be like, dude, I feel your pain, like, come here, and try and give him a hug. Giving him a hug would make them uncomfortable too. I mean, I wouldn't give him a hug, but anything makes them uncomfortable. Because any way you can diffuse that situation is a good way, to be honest. And you can diffuse it a lot of ways. And I don't usually run into people. Usually people are trying to mind their own business out at the clubs. They're just trying to hang out with friends. But you get people who spend a little too much time out at the clubs, and it becomes part of their life to where they start acting out in that area, so that since they spend so much time there, they need to posture, because if they don't, it's like, well, what am I doing here? Like, I don't feel powerful here either. Why am I here? Like, what am I doing if I'm not, I'm not the tough guy at the club? Because there used to be a lot of people who would do that. They'd be the tough guy, and then, back a long time ago, they would get free drinks, and they would, because they were intimidating. They would be that guy who would come up, and if you were causing trouble, you would, you'd have to answer to this guy, like, tough guy, and it's just such an interesting part about it, is how people translate their energy of powerlessness to other people in society, like in the service industry, or people in general, just people that out at the clubs, or just in general, because they don't know what to do with it. Maybe they don't have anyone around, but they don't know how to process it. How do I get myself not to feel powerless in my life? How do I get myself not to feel helpless? How do I? And then they have all this stupid information about how to assert yourself to people, and how to, be more of an alpha male. And there's all this kind of unconscious baggage that might be genetic, but it's definitely in the society, and it's kind of propagated through media and just kind of in general, schools, just kind of the pack mentality in high school. Like when we had cliques, I mean, that was a big part about that, was all the cliques. There was almost like the popular kids, and the popular kids were way cooler, and honestly got away with a lot more. And they were kind of the alpha people. And it was really weird, because none of them deserved it. They just happened to be more confident than everyone else. And it was like, these people, all they are is just more confident than you are. Like, there's literally no difference. They're not special, but we all treated them special, like they were fucking gods. And it was like, no, they're just more confident than you are. And to say that there's any difference between you and them, it's just confidence. That's it. And that's how children oftentimes form groups and relationships, is one person's more confident than them, or they're more confident than the other person, and they can play their strengths. You see this a lot with children. So if there's all you need to have is one bossy person in a group, and you have things to do in that group of friends. So all you need is one person who thinks they're the boss of this group of kids. And then all of them just sit there and listen to that group, to that person, and go to them like, hey, what should we do? Like, hey, you know, this. And that translates into high school too. Like most of what we did in high school was just because there was bossy people who wanted to do what they wanted to do. And it was like most of the time you just had to listen to them or they wouldn't shut up. It was like for most of our lives, it's been the bossy, more confident people who have had control of social situations. And now it's translating out of that or transitioning out of that. And now it's going to be people who are just confident in themselves and not so much just confident in a social situation. Because that's how, and it's even that way with like celebrities. The only difference between celebrities and us is that they're just more confident. Like it doesn't even mean that they're more intelligent than us. It doesn't mean that they're more anything than us. They're just more confident in what they say. And
some of them are more talented than us too.
Yeah, well, some of them are very intelligent, and that's a big one too. Is that they have that combination. So let's say, I think that what's his name, Morgan Freeman. He's like very intelligent, and he's also very confident, which is a big one. And he gains confidence through acting. His career in acting, which is basically you have to be super confident in order to act some ridiculous role out. In order to act like you're God, you have to have, you know, like in Bruce Almighty, you have to have a lot of confidence because you have to act not like yourself. And that, in order to act, like if I asked you to act like there was a Freddy Krueger guy down your hallway, and you needed to act super afraid in front of a bunch of people, like you have to act certain ways in front of a bunch of people. That means that you have to have a lot of confidence for that. And that's what celebrities have for the most part is confidence. A lot of them, not so much on the intelligence part, but a lot more on the, you know, some of them are more intelligent, but most of it's confidence. And that's a big one. It's just having confidence in yourself, being true to yourself and genuine, you know, about what you're expressing and about, you know, what it is that you're trying to get across. And if you don't believe in that part of yourself, you won't be confident, and then you'll be vulnerable to all these stupid ideologies that tell you need to put on a facade to be confident or to be assertive or to have a stake in the conversation. It's just ridiculous. It's time that we move on from that kind of thing. But holy crap! Let's wrap up the podcast. We've talked about a lot. Honestly, we've been talking for 2 hours. This is a really good podcast. One thing I want to say is there's awesome place in Texas, in Austin, called Square Root. And I want everyone to make an effort, if you're watching this, to kind of replace one of your times that you would go out to the bars and go out and drink some kava and kind of take part in that kind of social interaction and that kind of social construct, because it's awesome and incredibly beneficial. And I kind of want to put that challenge out there. Later, I'll have actual definitive challenges that people can do, but that's one of them. I kind of want to help move the society and have the kava movement progress and get more people interested in it, more people a part of it. Because I think it's a much healthier social construct to have than to have just alcohol for people available and tobacco, you know, which are our drugs of choice. And that's a whole nother podcast. But anyways, it was awesome talking to you, Kyle.
Yeah.
A truly awesome podcast.
And by the way, he's not being paid to say any of this either. He's just a true kava believer.
Yeah. So I'm not getting paid for this yet. Maybe one day I'll be paid for this, but I'm not paid for it now. I just like doing this. This is just how I am, and this is just what I'm interested in. And
I meant like the Kava people aren't paying you to say
Oh,
all
the
this. You're
Kava.
just we don't have corporate sponsorship here.
Yeah, so we don't
Kava
have a
is just
sponsorship.
awesome stuff.
Yeah, if we were sponsored, and maybe we will be eventually, it won't. We would say this podcast is brought to you by Square Root. But yeah, I mean, it's just important to me. So, and I think it's one thing that I really want. I don't want to change American values, but what I do want to do is change the exposure we have to different techniques for accessing that kind of social environment and that kind of social stability and comfort that you can have in talking to other people, because most people are anxious to talk to even strangers or even their friends. A lot of people have to literally just drink until they can talk to their friends. And I think that's toxic. I think that's horrible. I don't think we should have to have kava to talk to our friends in a manner either, but it is definitely a healthier alternative. And I don't want to get into it a lot, but I think it's an awesome movement, and people need to become a part of it, and people need to, well, at least people who have this agree with me need to become a part of it and need to support it more, because it is the only place in Texas. So if it doesn't do well, a place might not open up like it again. So we need to take advantage of it, and we need to get on it, because I just like it more. So I'm trying to create a new society in a sense. I'm trying to create a new kind of a new amalgamation for people to have access to, and that's what I want to create with this podcast. It's kind of like a community that does things a little differently, maybe.
And maybe get everybody to calm the fuck down a little bit.
yeah, exactly. Get people
stop being so angry all the time. Maybe
stop being so on edge all the time. That's a good thing as well. Is that create a society that's a little more balanced. Create a community that, maybe we don't go out to bars too often, but hey, if we go out, we go to a kava bar, or maybe have a beer every so often, but something to relieve the symptoms of the modern society, which is really important. And that's something kava can do, and other things, but they aren't legal here yet. So we'll just have to wait out on that. So that might be later down the line. But yeah, anyways, that was an awesome podcast. Everyone, if you liked what we said or did, or had any questions, subscribe to the podcast on the channel. And usually I have updates and vlogs on there and things like that. But subscribe and comment. Tell us how you feel. And until next time.
Thank you for having me on, Sam. This was a lot of fun, so I hope we get to do this again.
Yeah, honestly,
I'm sure I'll have a lot more to say in the future too. There was some things that I kind of was thinking about, but didn't know quite how to say. So hopefully we can keep having conversations like this, and it was a lot of fun. Thanks for doing this with me.
Yeah, absolutely. And those things that you thought of, write them down. That's for sure. Because next time we'll get to them. But yeah. All right. Well, peace, guys. See you later.